Alrighty.
Welcome back, everyone. So, last episode we were at Lake Eyre, heading south towards the Oodnadatta track.
Yes, it was we kicked off the Oodnadatta trek from Marla. So that was a good few hour drive down from Alice. We were already in a pretty damper mood, given that we were about to
Leave our convoy.
And we're already sort of had the expectation that we're going to drop about 10 grand on the car to get it all fixed up and compliant. I should also add that this is the second time that we're filming this. The first time the recording stopped about 30 seconds in. So here's hoping take two will actually take.
If it doesn't, then I'm sorry, you're not getting a video at all. That's just how the last 2 weeks have gone.
Yes, so that leads us into our first stop along the Oodnadatta track, which is about 80 kilometres in, a little place called Coongra Creek.
A little free camp.
Yes, so we had to find somewhere that was close enough to the bitumen, so we got there on Saturday. We needed
Pretty late in the afternoon, it was like.
Yeah, so we needed to wait until Monday to find out how soon we needed to be down in Adelaide to get the car booked in. So we waited close, so we camped out there for a couple of nights. It was a nice little sort of quiet spot just off the track. We sort of basically were barely set up.
Yeah, we were exhausted, so we literally just pulled up, put Nigel's little leggies down, and got in the van, had a drink, and
crashed out.
Yeah.
And the next day, we just sort of twiddled our thumbs and waited for Monday until we could make the decision on what we were.
Whether we were going back bitumen way or dirt tracks of Oodnadatta.
Yeah. Anyway, so Monday comes, we get the call. It's a couple of weeks, so we've got a couple of weeks to kill. So we're going to run down the track and hit up the Flinders. So we get all packed up, get in the car. Kobe's all hooked up on his little seat,
ready to go.
Yeah, and the car doesn't start. Just like a little click.
Great way to start a Monday, by the way, everybody.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? Alrighty, so we're at Coongra Creek at the moment. We're just about to head off and make way to Oodnadatta, along the Oodnadatta track. Unfortunately, the car won't turn over because the battery's flat because we left it plugged into the caravan. We've done it before overnight, not for 2 full days in a row, so I think that's a big lesson learned. We are, however, we were in touch with someone who was heading our way, but yeah, we're just basically sitting at the roadside waiting to pull someone over and hopefully get a proper jump start, because the jump start battery, thank you Scott, as much as that was helpful, I don't think it's enough to get the crank battery on a 200 series cruiser going. So another lesson learned there. Yeah, other than that, fantastic start to the week.
Happy Monday, everybody. Come on, somebody.
I reckon it was then, wasn't it?
Yep. So we waited there for what, 45 minutes?
Yeah, and then
James and Kobe decided to ditch me and go back to the car for the bigger radio.
Yeah, bigger antenna. It's gonna reach more people.
So I stayed on the side of the road as the sacrifice.
Which was a good thing, because 10 minutes later, you managed to hail someone down.
I did. A lovely older couple. I think they were a little bit hesitant at first because we were parked like pretty down the track. They couldn't see the car, so they were looking at me a little bit weird, but they eventually agreed to follow me down the track and give us a hand. So, but they were lovely. They problem everything and just got us up and running. They were even so kind as to offer to follow us to the next town just in case anything happened. No, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
They were our saving grace that day.
Yes. So, a bit late of a start, but anyway, we got on, and 120 kilometres later, we found ourselves at Oodnadatta, known for the Pink Roadhouse. Now, although we didn't pick it up there, we actually ended up picking it up at Quorn.
After the trip.
Yes, after the trip, of course. The little pink Oodnadatta track mud map. Obviously,
This would have been great to have because it has the radio stations that you should be...
all of the UHF channels that you should be connected to as you make your way down. All of the places that you can stop and stay at, and all of the travel tips. So if you are coming up, stop by at the Quorn Information Centre, which is the old railway station. That was the only place we found them.
Yeah.
There's probably others, but
We couldn't find it.
anyway. But more importantly, Pink Roadhouse, it was as bright and pink and leery as you would expect, which was excellent because, as we'll explain at another point, I've re-engaged my habit of collecting stubby coolers, and this is the most leery and Austin Powersy
Hideous.
stubby cooler that we've found to date. So I just had to have it. Anyway, we filled up on fuel and
Fuel, snacks, and some new jumper leads, just in case.
yes, and made our way down to our campsite spot for the night, which was Algebuckina Waterhole. Probably most recognisable when you're driving down the track on the driver's side. If you're going sort of southeast way, there's a really tall section of a train bridge, and on the opposite side of that is a track that will lead you about 1 kilometre in to right up against this creek.
Another free camp that we found on Wiki Camps. It was a beautiful spot. There was only one other camper there. They kept to themselves, so it was just like a really nice getaway after a stressful start to the day for us.
Yes. And in any case, so it was like the stars there it was like a chandelier was lit up above you. It was incredible.
It was the best that we'd seen by
so
that
far.
point, yeah.
Yeah. So we made sure the car was unplugged from the van.
Which we have done every night
since. Yep. And so next up, the next day, we were trying to make our way down to another free campsite called the Quilters Ruins, which I think we've got some drone footage for you here.
So everybody's recommended this one. We've seen it all over Instagram and stuff like that. We thought it'd be really cool to follow along and do it as well. James just checking that the camera is actually working this time.
Yep. And it looked amazing as we got closer and closer. And then,
as we got closer, it just started to, the ground was glistening in the sun.
Which
and when we got closer and closer, we realised it was just riddled with glass, broken glass everywhere.
So that was an immediate red flag for us. Just for Kobe alone with his paws, it was just it was a hard no straight away. But
it wasn't worth the hassle.
It wasn't going to be worth the hassle, and even for ourselves, we were a bit concerned because there were quite a bit of
big shards.
Yeah, so
it's a shame other people have to ruin it, but
yep. Well, there you go. So we decided we'd just carry on. So that was a halfway point to William Creek. So we just decided to gun it and make it down to William Creek Hotel, which turned out to be a great
awesome
call. Amazing spot, especially if you want to do. Although
the scenic tours and the flights.
I mean, you can do the scenic flights across Lake Eyre, across a few destinations along the track. But it was an amazing little spot, little bush airport, and most importantly, we were able to get Kobe behind the bar. Or, well...
Not behind the bar, otherwise it'd be free beer for everybody.
No, actually, in the bar, on the customer side. And, you know, it had been 3 months since we'd had a proper sit-down meal.
Since we've been in an establishment where we could sit down, have a beer and have a meal with, like, real knives and forks.
Yep. So
With Kobe with us.
we went to town that night.
Yes, our poor bank account the next day. We may have got a little bit excited on that front.
A few drinks, and Kobe even ordered his own meal. He had schnitzel, gravy, and chips. No salad, because
Doesn't like his greens.
he doesn't make friends with salad.
Everybody was really shocked that we ordered him a schnitzel, but you know, he's going to eat as well.
Yeah.
And we didn't really want to leave to go back and give him dinner, so you know.
Yeah. But anyway, so from there, the next stop was Coward Springs. Now, a lot of people had recommended this place to us just because it was a literal oasis in the desert.
So you can imagine, after hours and hours of desert, more desert, you get to this beautiful little utopia.
You drop into this kind of plains.
Palm trees.
So it was an old, there's plenty of history lessons to be had across the Oodnadatta track, but this was an old date farm from the sort of Afghan settlers days. And so it was very much environmentally conscious. There's no power, no water, no cell signal, no Wi-Fi, but they had a little sort of cafe, bakery, in an impromptu sort of like food truck, food van, and if you wanted coffee, you
have to bring your own cup.
Yep. And with the so we
if you wanted to use the communal shower, there's this cool thing out the front of it that you actually have to put firewood in, light it.
So I think it's like a donkey kettle or something like that, donkey fire.
Yeah. It looked pretty cool.
So that's how you got your hot showers. But it was an amazing little place, nice little artesian spring, first in, best dressed. It's pretty cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty small. I mean, for us, that was as good as it was going to get because we couldn't get to the Dalhousie Springs, because it's in a
national park,
so no domesticated dingoes allowed. So,
but he got to sit next to us where we had a little.
Yeah, we just tied him up to the gate, and he was happy as Larry. So after that, feeling refreshed, we made tracks for Maree. Now originally we had planned to stop somewhere outside of Maree at another free camp, which was basically along the dog fence.
Yep.
But we got there and
there's 1080 bait signs everywhere. And we've heard so many sad stories of people who have taken their dogs along their travels and they've accidentally eaten a 1080 bait. There's nothing that you can do for them if they do.
It eats them up from inside. It's pretty horrific.
It's horrible. So Kobe hates wearing a muzzle as well. I know we should probably train him to wear one, but we're just like, no.
We'd already been pretty stressed by that point, so we were just like, I'm just driving on. And so, probably about 20 kilometres outside of Maree, trouble arises. The car just starts sort of like jittering, as if the brakes are pulsing. And so checked, and the electronic brakes were fine. And anyway, so we pulled across to the side, and after a rather abrupt emergency stop, which the catalyst for turned out to be the Gray Anderson plug, as we would at that point conveniently discover was our breakaway.
Probably should have found that out when we actually got the caravan, but you know.
Minor details.
Yep.
Anyway, so our caravan has hydraulic brakes, so when the power stops, the brakes jam on. Great security measure, excellent if your van is actually disconnected from the car for whatever reason on a highway, gets it to an emergency stop pretty quickly. When your car is still attached, a bit of a different story. Anyway, so plug the Anderson plug back in, we get going, don't think anything of it.
Yep.
So we get to Maree, we stayed at the hotel, which has a sort of free camp section for caravanners and rooftop tenters in their sort of
Just like kind of outside the back of a little
fenced off area.
Yeah.
The only thing that they ask is that you go in for a few drinks or a feed. So naturally we went in
Didn't
there.
have to ask James twice.
Nope. So a few drinks and a feed, a camel burger for me. Later we
sat out the front and
experienced quite the dust storm there.
oh gosh, that came up out of nowhere. That was
pretty wild.
yeah.
It was so, typically they wouldn't let dogs inside because they had a couple of dogs and one of them was attacked by a dog off lead. Friendly reminder, if you're travelling around, it doesn't matter how well trained your dog is, keep them on a lead.
Yeah. You don't know
if everybody else's story
or
so the publicans there, they even got to the point where they were like, look, we can put our dogs out back in our sort of owner's quarters and manager's quarters, and I was just like, no, we'll just so we just got our food put in for takeaway and went back into the van, and it was
that was the windiest night I think we've experienced.
Yeah, there was
I'm kind of glad that we didn't stay at the dog fence because that was like open plain area. This was like at least sheltered by fences and things, and it was
rocking
hectic.
The van, and the sort of colorbond fence was still probably up to above the window height. So yeah, that was pretty gnarly. Anyway, so got up the next day and we're heading off, but not before I had to do a bit of touristy action, because as we found out when we got to Mari, it is the ancestral home for the Oldfields. So Stu Oldfield, a good friend of ours from the Barossa, said we should check it out. So I proceeded to take as many photos as I could of myself with
any Oldfield sign that there was.
Yeah, we bumped into his cousin at the
general store. Yeah,
which was great. Leaky track. Yeah. Dominica. Take us back to the corner.
James, shut up. I'm looking at horses. Oh, my maze. I'm sorry.
After that, we made our way down to Copley's, Leigh Creek. So it's sort of a tale of two towns, as it were. Leigh Creek, there used to be a sort of booming coal mining industry there, which, when resources or money runs out, the town becomes a bit of a ghost town, as it were. So Leigh Creek,
sad to see.
Yeah, Leigh Creek had all of this sort of money
infrastructure, everything,
and Copley did not. But the former Leigh Creek Hotel, now Copley Hotel, was a great little free camp spot that we were able to stay at. It costs if you want power and light, but great pizza, great atmosphere, great publicans.
Everybody there was lovely, friendly, except for
one of
Kobe's nemesis.
Yes, there was so
there was a bull Arab there that one of the caravans near us owned, and from the very get-go, Kobe and him didn't get along, which is weird because Kobe loves every single dog that he meets.
So they had a bit
of a scuffle, Kobe's first scuffle, and the dog actually bit and punctured Kobe's nose. So he was feeling a little bit sad and sorry for himself, so I brought him back for a little bit of first aid in the caravan. Told him that, don't worry, chicks dig scars, so he'll be right. But good to note that there isn't actually a vet until Adelaide.
Well, not good to note, but important information, especially if you're travelling with your fur child through the Flinders and that part of the country. Yeah, if anything goes wrong there, snake bites or the like, it's not good.
Yeah. So
just prepare yourself and make sure you have a good additional set of inventory in your first aid kit for your dog. So anyways, the next day we were heading off to Arkaroola, but we had to stop by at Leigh Creek to grab some bit more food and essentials
Yep.
to do the little trek out there. So Copley and Leigh Creek are about 2 kilometres away, and so about the halfway point,
Yep.
the car starts jittering again, brakes pulsating, and brakes slam on. So go back outside, think, what's gone on now? The positive wire in the Grey Anderson has just completely sort of fallen out of its crimp. So we didn't know how to fix it at
We
the
didn't
time.
have any phone signal to Google how to fix it either.
Yeah. So we managed to get a bit of blue tack and
Really jammed it in there just enough to just,
basically skull drag the van.
yeah. So we went all, well,
We went
kilometre,
to what
the longest kilometre ever, to Leigh Creek Servo.
Yeah. Got there. They said you should have gone to Copley. I tried to explain the situation. Anyway, we ended up finding out that the Copley mechanic was the nearest, but in order to get a call out, you had to call the RAA.
So we did roadside assist. We waited, what, about
Just
an
about an
hour?
hour.
Another
So anyway-
by the road.
Yeah, he came. The bloke there came out and was like, "Oh yeah, no dramas." So as he was explaining to us, and important to note as well, you should check the crimps on your Anderson plugs, because a lot of time when they come straight out of sort of manufacturing, they're basically crimped with an old school sort of mechanical crimp, which creates like a V, so like this. So the actual point of force is in the middle, whereas he's got this fancy new bit of kit that actually crimps sort of, if you think along the line here, along the line of where it's crimped here and here flat, with about 8 ton of pressure. So
He guaranteed us that is not
basically
gonna come
said
out.
that that's not coming out. But it was interesting to note because I think definitely it's made a difference.
Yeah.
He sort of had a bit of a weird look at us when he first came round and started fixing it up, and then when he finished crimping up the and plugging everything back in, he heard the hydraulic hiss as the air pressure is released from the hydraulic brakes, and realised that we weren't, as a lot of other people are, just concerned that their Anderson plug wasn't properly connected, which you can still drive away with for the most part, but that had basically bricked the van itself. So he was a bit more appreciative of the fact of why we had to call him on a Saturday morning.
Yes.
Anyway, just
All fixed up.
and just to pay it forward, he actually had a call out from Arkaroola,
Which was where we
we
were
were
heading
heading.
next.
That Land Rover out there had managed to run through both of their tyres, or spare tyres, so we offered to sort of ferry them up to Arkaroola. Great little track up there, pretty rocky and narrow and windy at parts,
Yeah.
but
Beautiful scenery though. The
Oh.
ranges were really spectacular.
yeah, just such a different environment.
And oh my god, so many goats.
Yes,
Goats everywhere.
so many goats.
And
Anyway,
cute
so we
little
got
baby
to-
ones.
We got to Arkaroola. It's you'll see in a photo now. There was
James is paranoid and checking again.
sorry, just checking the camera again. It's this sort of sanctuary in the valley, surrounded by just amazing mountainous environment, and
We'll put in some footage.
yeah, and so it's a privately owned wilderness sanctuary. You can sort of either go powered, unpowered, or they've got cabins. We opted for unpowered and went bush camping. They've got about 300 hectares of bush camping sort of availability.
Yeah.
So we went,
We
reasonably.
went as far away as possible, and
Yeah, because they run a diesel generator at night, and if you've ever heard one of those, it's not too fun to be near.
sounds like James snoring.
Yes, maybe. Anyway, so booked in 4 nights there, and thought, this would be good. Amazing stars. We didn't get many photos because we were a little fixated on another problem that reared its ugly head on night 2.
Yep.
So Mel was
I was sitting here watching TV, and James just got into the shower,
about
looking forward to a hot shower after.
a long day.
Yeah.
And halfway through the shower, power goes out, like
Everything
full-on
just
power
boom.
cut. Just everything just winds down. So we go and check the battery. It's 68%. So that's weird, but the voltage is tanking. But anyway, so there was nothing we could do. We couldn't really run a generator in the evening.
Yeah, it was a bit too late to put Jenny on. So when the power goes, that means the pumps for the taps, everything doesn't work. So
Yeah. So fridge is off, nothing's working.
Yeah.
So we were pretty antsy about that. But anyway, just went to bed, woke up the next morning, got the generator running. Eventually the solar kicked in. And first thing we did, so our battery management system and inverter is made by Projector. And if you've got anything by Projector, top tip, as we found out from a few other caravanners along the way, give their tech support line a call. Amazingly helpful. Like,
they walked you through everything to
Yeah.
check in every single wire, every single battery pack.
because as we would find out, well, fortunately in our case, all of the wiring was done correctly. But as the bloke on the line explained to me, and as you should be aware of, not every manufacturer actually does a proper job on the wiring or how it should be correctly set up. So in our case, everything was right, but we had to do some calibration on a little system called the shunt, and that seemed to fix the problem.
Fingers
Knock on wood.
crossed, please.
But what we did learn was that we actually had what's called a DC to DC charger. So when you drive your car, quite a few caravans these days have a DC to DC charger, which means that you can actually charge your battery from the alternator on your car. So it's charging your car batteries, and then once that's done, it's actually charging the caravan batteries. So if you have a cloudy day and your solar's not kicking in proper, you've
Still
got
get a bit of
an
charge.
extra,
Yeah.
25 amps odd of power coming through. We thought we just didn't have it installed for whatever reason. Turns out, as the Projector bloke explained to me, we did have one. It just wasn't actually made for our battery setup because we have lithium batteries, and it would only work with the old school gel AGM or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
So we very quickly rang up the dealer and asked them why. I don't think they've gotten a response from Nova yet, hopefully soon. But we're looking forward to getting a solution there and getting the correct Projector lithium
Yeah.
DC to DC charger in and actually being able to charge, because where we're heading, it will be quite handy to have that.
Yes.
Anyway, so the next few days go on. We make our way.
We did a big hike that morning before we
yes.
headed off.
We
That was
did.
a really nice hike. It was a safe hike to take Kobe on, because once again they do have 1080 baits outside of the wildlife sanctuary part, but
They make birds can carry them in, and
yeah,
so you just got to be careful at the end of the day. But excellent place to go and just relax. We didn't get to do the ridgetop tour because we couldn't take Kobe, but from everyone that's been on it, if you do get the opportunity, do it.
yeah.
So anyway, we left Arkaroola and made our way towards Parachilna via Blinman. So we came in through one dirt track and we were going around the long way around the South Loop.
Because everyone has recommended this spot to us.
So Parachilna Gorge, which is basically between Parachilna and Blinman, again, it was kind of like a It was like a West MacDonnell Rangers moment for us.
It was. I have to say that's been my favourite scenery so far.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. But what came before then, about 50 kilometres out of Blinman,
Yeah.
another weird sensation occurred whilst we were driving along. The van felt a bit heavier, but it wasn't the same as the brakes going on. So anyway, we pulled over to the side, and lo and behold, flat tyre.
Thoughts, James?
Huh?
Anything to say to the camera?
This is not ideal.
We knew it was bound to happen one day, but honestly, it just felt like everything was happening every single day, something new.
Something.
We thought like it would be a bit more spaced out in caravan life, not every single day. So at this point, we're both just.
I think you were pretty broken. But anyway, so we got all of the kit out to do the swap over.
Jacked
for
up the
spare.
caravan.
So we've got a bit of a time lapse, as it were, just to, whilst I quickly check once again that we're actually recording.
Because we are at breaking point.
Yeah, we're still at breaking point a little bit. Anyway, so we had got round to removing the troubled tyre and pulled the cover off the spare on the back, and weirdly enough for us, because we hadn't seen one before, there was a big locking nut, about 25 mil, I think. So bigger than anything that any of the
Any
toolkit.
of the wrenches or
Like, we
vice
just-
grips that we had,
just
like
weren't
nothing
big
would.
enough.
Yeah.
So yet again we were back to
Back to wading on the side of a dirt road,
Coongra
being
Creek,
attacked
yeah.
by flies.
Couple of caravanners passed by without stopping to check what we were doing, which was a bit disheartening. At
'Cause
that
normally
point.
we've found people very good. I mean, we stop every time we see somebody on the side of the road, and most of the time people stop for us. It's just like an unspoken rule
It's just
for
the thing to do.
caravanners to do. But yeah. Anyways, these people
So after
didn't.
about an hour and a half,
Yeah.
finally someone
There's
stopped.
no phone signal, and we couldn't get anybody on the radio.
Yeah. So about an hour and a half of waiting later, this American couple in a Hilux, 20-year-old Hilux, I think it were,
Yeah.
stopped by, and they were heading towards Arkaroola, and the bloke went through everywhere in his car in the ute to try and find something that could help us, because he just could see probably the sheer just desperation in our faces. We were already sort of just like, why is this happening to us? And he managed to find, as he would later explain, a pair of vice grip set up from his Toyota Tundra in the US that he just by sheer coincidence
Threw into his carry-on last minute.
Yeah, as he was heading over to Australia from the States for a little while. So, thank you.
Yeah. Honestly.
Never caught the bloke's name, but what was it? He was from over the
Over the edge?
edge. I think so.
Mountain biking.
Mountain biking shop in
Melrose.
In Melrose. So there you go.
Thank you. If you ever see this, you saved our day.
Yes. So we got back on the road and slowly made our way to where we were going to camp up for the night. And
So we're aiming for Parachilna
Yeah.
Gorge. Everybody recommended it. It looked amazing on Wikicamps, and that was going to be our zen spot for the day.
yes, we got there, started setting up, and so part of the setup phase is switching on, as we said before, water pumps. So we've got two water pumps. We've got one for the filtered water tap, which comes out of one tank, and one for the everything else, shower and fresh water and toilet flush,
yeah.
everything. And so they're two sort of separate pumps. Now, what normally happens is they firstly sort of put water into all of the pipes, so it makes it sound like "nyeh." That's the pump, pushing all of the water out of the tanks into all of the hoses. Now, if you've got a leak, it goes "nyeh, nyeh,
And it doesn't stop.
nyeh," and every sort of 2-3 seconds it just does that, "nyeh," and you don't know what's going on. Fortunately, in our case, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it was pretty easy to identify because there was a puddle of water very quickly building underneath the van. Alrighty, so we've had to replace a tyre today, and now we're having to deal with some leaky pipes, thanks to probably the same stones that broke the tyre. How are you going, Mel?
Go caravan, they said. It'll be fun, they said. It's not.
Yes, I don't think Mel likes the dirt tracks anymore.
Yep.
And it happened to be one of these little sort of connectors, which happens to be one of the most expensive hose connectors and difficult to find. Not even Bunnings has them, weirdly enough. I'd say expensive, like $10 or something like that for a piece of plastic there. But anyway,
So yeah, we've
already had a flat tire, and then we get to camp and we thought, oh, just looking forward to a shower, and we can't have a shower. We spent hours trying to patch it up.
Yep, underneath the caravan, trying
Everything, but it
Yep.
just wouldn't happen. And we'd later find out that it was basically a crack at the connection point. So
probably the same rock that did the tyre.
same rock that did the tyre, same rock that took out the Anderson plug
Yeah.
back on the Oodnadatta. It's just been following us and laughing in our faces. Anyway, so another night where we just had another drink and just crashed out and went, tomorrow's going to be a better day. So we get up and go, 10 kilometres of dirt track left, and I think by that point, I mean, that night you were looking at...
I was looking at selling the caravan that night, seeing what prices we could get. I was just so over it. It'd been 2 weeks of just something new every single day.
Yeah.
I knew things like this would happen, but I thought it would be spaced out.
Yeah.
Not every single day.
Yeah. So Mel was pretty keen to get back on bitumen at least. So 10 kilometres later we arrived at Prairie Hotel in Parachilna, infamous for having a roadkill feral
platter.
What do you think of the menu, Mel?
I think it's the worst menu in the world.
Let's have a look-see. I mean, that looks amazing. I'm going to go for the FMG Feral Mixed Grill. Roux fillet, camel sausage, emu and bacon rissole, goat tomahawk. Oh, delicious.
I think I might go for the fries.
Not the slow-cooked goat, the kangaroo schnitzel, the emu pate, or the roux tail.
So of course James had to go for that. So I think that was what? Camel, emu, kangaroo,
goat.
Yep.
So it was camel sausage, emu rissoles, oh, my favourite, kangaroo steak, and goat chop, which was pretty much exactly like lamb chop, except it made a different noise in its life. So that was pretty cool. And we also met this American couple that had just done the
the
Hyson Trail.
Yeah. So it took them 2 months, about 20 kilometres every day with their big backpacks.
Oh, some near, like, they were showing us videos where they were just near vertical sort of rock scrambling, like 5-6 metres at a time. And I was just like, yeah, nah. It made us...
It put in perspective that
Yeah.
at least we have shelter, warmth,
Yeah,
something to cook with,
it's
a
quite,
bed.
It's quite civilised and luxurious in the end. Anyway, so we carried on down to Hawker. We got to Hawker, got to the general store, picked up a few extra supplies, and as I was in there speaking with the Scottish lady who was manning the checkout, she said, sort of telling her all of the misery that we'd been through the last few days, weeks, however long it was. She said, "Oh, well, we've got a plumber just working on the dishwasher. Let me grab him for you." And so he comes out and says, "What's your problem? Where's the van?" And so, "Oh, just outside." So he comes out and bless him, he goes underneath. We work out what's going on and takes out the connector. We sort of managed to jerry rig the hose itself to fit without that corner connector, and I mean, it was a quick 5-minute job, but they would not take anything for payment. So Andrew, the plumber from Hawker, thank you very much for your help. And if anybody needs any plumbing work done in the Hawker area, just give them a call, give them your support. Definitely, when we're back, we'll try and find him and buy him a few beers.
This really is just like a thank you video for
for everyone
that has helped us the last few weeks. I think I would be bold if you guys didn't help us. So thank you to everyone.
So anyway, after that, we decided not to stay in Hawker just because it was still prickly and deserty, and that meant that
that's one thing that we've had problem with through the Oodnadatta and Flinders.
Yeah,
there's just prickles everywhere, so Kobe's a little bit of a wuss when he gets anything in his paws, and he just stands there just like, help me.
Bit of a prima donna in that sense, but it is what it is.
Which makes it hard to walk him, and especially at night and things like that. So
we carried on to Quorn. We'd actually been there with my mum, Zarina, and brother Dom back in January, in sort of peak summer, when we stayed at Rawnsley Park Station Homestead for a couple of nights, and it was a ghost town. Like, there was nothing going on. I thought,
didn't see
it's
a person in the whole town.
Yeah, it was weird. We just drove through and we're like, does anybody actually live here?
Different story this time.
Like, amazing. Probably one of our favourite little country towns that we went to.
Definitely.
Just awesome. And they do, so you'll see, like, in the Eyre and York Peninsula, a lot of the sort of grain silos there have big sort of artwork paintings on them. The unique thing about Quorn is they actually, every night, they have this little shed with speakers built into it that projects stories, the history of Quorn, and all the sort of industry around there. If you're a big sort of railway fanatic, you definitely got to go visit. And it's also the home of Flinders gin. Just everything about it. It was a wonderful town. Everyone was so lovely, from the people working at the IGA, the proprietor at IGA was serving us at one point. The lovely couple and that owned Flinders Gin were super inviting, and just
the caravan
park,
family,
the little family there.
They were so sweet.
Father and son, who's he'd be barely out of preschool, just sitting on the back of the side by side as they're driving around picking up the rubbish. So he's organising all of that. It's just everything about it was like that nice small town vibe, and these astonishing brick houses that had been built. It's a fairly sort of steep climb up from basically Port Augusta to get to Quorn, and you're just like, how did they do this? How do they build all of this? And it's so well maintained and looked after, even for a small town that basically since the 50s hasn't really been servicing anything other than the sort of tourism through to the Flinders. But pay Quorn a visit. I highly recommend it.
We loved
awesome.
it. I mean, if it wasn't so hot there in summer, I would suggest moving there. It was a really cute little town.
But so now we're just camped out in Parham, which is about an hour's north out of the big smoke of Adelaide.
Yep. So we chose to stay here. Originally, we were looking at a few bush camps along the way, but just the way with luck that has been happening to us lately. Big
rainstorm coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, from Sunday, and I was like, no, we're staying away from dirt roads. Anything that could possibly go wrong, we're trying to avoid at this stage.
Yeah.
Just because The first time that we actually have to be somewhere, I don't want to get bogged or
Yes, we've got
stuck
a very
or-
expensive booking at TJM on Tuesday, and I don't want to miss it.
yeah.
So, yeah. So
But then
anyway,
the first sign that we see when we pulled up here was beware of snakes.
yes. So, fingers crossed, toes crossed. We just
We're
Gotta
staying
get through
in the
to
van.
Adelaide.
We're not leaving the van.
yes, we're just staying here. Anyway, next time we'll catch you up on all of the work that's been done on the car. I'll give everyone a bit of a maths lesson, and hopefully some better news and better experiences and less trouble on the horizon.
Fingers crossed, guys.
Alrighty.
Thanks for listening.
See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Ciao. Kobe, what are you doing?